Hi, I'm Nikki Lancaster, tattooed counselor, here in my office at Satya Counseling. Today, I'm going to tell you a little bit about some of the ways that trauma can affect your brain. I say some of the ways for a couple of reasons. One is I'm not an MD, I'm not a neuropsychologist, I'm not a neurologist. Second is there are so many ways trauma affects your brain, we're not going to nail them all in one YouTube video, okay? I'm going to focus mainly on 4 structures and how they show up in a way that's most relevant when I first start working with someone who has survived a trauma. The first structure is the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, and don't let that name intimidate you. I'm going to refer to it as the guy with the watch. It's like there's someone who's got this enormous watch or big clock that they're holding, and when trauma happens, you didn't call it, you didn't invite it, and you don't know how long it's going to go on. So basically, the guy with the watch goes, "Ah!" And that can really mess with the way your memory encodes, and also with your sense of time, and getting you sucked into re-experiencing, so a memory is not just a memory. Another important structure is the executive function, which is more or less the CEO of your brain. It tells the different resources in your brain, the different structures, how much of what to do when. And so when something terrible happens, of course you don't want to happen again. You're not stupid. So the CEO calms down and like imagine like muttering to himself, like, what the hell is this? And this is terrible, and how did this happen? And goes over to these 2 other structures, your thalamus, which is essentially a filter or a gatekeeper, and then the amygdala, which is the guard. It's your fear center in your brain, okay? Goes over to those 2 guys and says, you screwed up. Don't ever let that happen again. And so the guard goes, okay, snorts a bunch of cocaine and starts patrolling really, really fast as the fight or flight resources are flaring up throughout the whole body, okay? So then when something similar happens, and it can be super similar or a little bit similar. For instance, if your trauma was someone cheating on you, maybe this flares up the next time you get in a relationship, right? Or if you have experienced interpersonal violence, then maybe if somebody raises their voice or looks angry. Whatever the case may be, when something somewhat similar shows up, then the filter goes running over to the guy with the clock and says, is that past? Is that the thing that happened? Is this a thing that's happening now? Is it a thing that is going to happen? And the guy with the watch goes, I don't know, it's broken. And so the filter goes, holy crap, it's happening. Runs over to the guard, and the guard does more cocaine and starts running back and forth, shouting for all the alarms to go off. And so then your fight or flight impulses kick in. So sometimes we call that hypervigilance, right? And you may even notice it yourself, thinking, why is it that I'm freaking out if my partner gets a text message when I can see myself that it's just their boss? Or why do I have this big reaction to this thing that turned out to be nothing? Well, these are very healthy adaptive functions in your brain. They're just overdoing it, understandably, right? You went through something that you weren't prepared to cope with, and you shouldn't have had to be prepared to cope with it. So a lot of the work that I like to do in helping people recover from trauma is regaining their sense of trust in telling time, is this a memory? Is this going to happen? Is it happening now? Not the intellectual ability to tell time. I mean, I'm certain you can look at a watch and see, oh, it's 2:30 or whatever it may be. But the ability to have a memory, and it's a memory, not necessarily fully re-experiencing it every time the memory shows up. So that internal calibration of past, present, and future, as well as self-trust. Learning to trust yourself that you can handle it, that you can take care of yourself. So if you have any questions, please feel free to send me an email, reach out. I'd love to hear from you. And we'll be chatting again soon. Thanks so much. You take care.